everybody, and welcome. I'm so excited with our guest today. You guys have emailed me, messaged me, DM'd me so many times. So we went and found Hospice Nurse Julie McFadden from California, TikTok fame. Like, you're crazy big on TikTok. Crazy big. That's
TikTok.
wild.
TikTok is his own beast.
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand.
Me
I'm just here
neither.
for the ride.
Well, welcome. People had
Thank
wanted
you.
me to interview you. Nobody really said what they wanted me to ask you. So I came up with my own questions, and then we'll kind of see where conversation takes us.
It's so great. I'm so glad to be here. Nice to see your face
I
and
know.
be with a fellow death worker. And it's going to be great. I know. I just want to apologize for my background. Okay. I know I'm like in my bedroom, in bed, technically. This is how comfortable you're making me, Kari.
That's right. Pen down. We're good.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Anyway, yes, let's do this. I'm
Well,
excited.
let's start. There's maybe a lot of people on my channel that don't know who you are because they're not into the TikTok and haven't really heard your name. So can you give me like the quick version, run down your resume and getting into what made you Hospice Nurse Julie?
Yeah, so my name is Julie McFadden. I've been a nurse for 15 years. Most of that nursing time was spent in the hospital, in the ICU, where I started becoming passionate about educating people and patients and families and other healthcare workers about death and dying, and thinking like we need to start having more talks about death in the hospital because there didn't seem to be any, and I realized after a while that I had a voice. Like you don't know that when you're first starting out, right? You're a little shy, you're timid, you're not sure. But as I started seeing that I just had to speak up a little bit about, can we have a family meeting about end of life care or the bigger picture or goals? And I started seeing the difference and how just one person speaking up could really change outcomes for patients and families. And anyway, so that got me into death, like talking and learning about death and being comfortable with that. And then I just finally took the plunge about 7 years ago. I get my times mixed up, but about 7 years ago, where I became a hospice nurse, and a huge learning curve there because I was so used to like fixing. And then about a year and a half ago, after being a hospice nurse for a few years, I got on TikTok because my nieces are 12 and 13, and I went to go visit them, and they were on TikTok. And of course, I'm kind of making fun of it. I'm 40 years old, right? So I was like thinking it's silly, and we were doing dances and and I just got on there so I could like watch them. And as I was watching other TikToks, though, I started seeing people like adults talking about space and talking about crafting and foodies and cooking. And I thought, I'm going to talk about death and dying. I have a few things I want to say. So I made a few videos, and I think like the fourth video in, or the fourth day in, something went viral. And then it just kept doing that. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll do this too, and now here we are. And it's been really amazing. I'm so happy people are into it, because you don't know, you don't think people are. In my everyday life, my friends and family are not. Now they kind of are, because they have to be, because I shove it down their throats. But like, at a dinner parties, it's not like people want to talk about my job when they know I'm a hospice nurse, right? So I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
That was a very long-winded Kari,
That's
but
okay.
that is how I got here.
And how like awesome are you now to your nieces?
I know,
That
I
you
love
are
them.
like crazy big on
Well,
TikTok.
this is my nieces are so funny because now they're like, I think they are happy about it, but they're also like, look, I can hear them talking to their friends, and they'll be like, she's like an adult on TikTok though. She only adults follow her. So I'm like, not really cool. I'm not doing like cool stuff.
You're like, way to knock me down just a little bit, but thank you.
I know. I saw a video my niece made when I hit 100,000 followers, like way back in the day, and she like made a video and being like, "This is my aunt. She's on TikTok. She's 100,000 followers, but it's mostly like adults and educating things." I was
I
like,
love it.
I know. I was
So
like, thanks, Courtney.
let's talk about the hospice just for a little bit. how many people do you think you've seen die or been there when they've died? I know a lot of times you come in after to pronounce and such.
Yeah. I would say 100. I'd say it's in the hundreds because it's been years. I mean, I've been a nurse for 15 years. So,
Yeah.
and I saw people die in the ICU too. So I'd say hundreds. I could be, sometimes I'm like, no way, but then some weeks it's like you see people die all the time, it just depends. So, yeah, maybe 100 or in the hundreds. Yeah.
I've never seen anybody die. So working in death care, it's weird to me that I've never seen anybody actually in the transition. I mean, my dog, when he was, put to sleep, but aside from that, that's literally my whole connection. So it's fascinating to me. My friends who are hospice workers and things, I'm like, really, like, let's talk about this, just because I'm intrigued because I'm on the other side. So yeah. I think that is interesting when you've seen it so much. Now, do you remember, like, when were you like, okay, this is for sure, you transitioned to hospice? Were you like on the fence a little at all? Do you remember a moment that you're like, yes, this was why I did this? Like, is there any big moments that really stuck out?
Well, I mean, I was so burnt out from the ICU, so burnt out. So I didn't know if this was the right choice, but I knew I had to make some kind of choice because I was like, I hated nursing. I hated my job. I thought I made the wrong choice. So like any kind of change felt good. And I just wasn't certain if this was the right one, but I knew like I needed to do something. So I think when I started meeting my patients, when I started working with this specific doctor who I really loved, and she like kind of taught me everything. And when I really started seeing how it took a while, probably about a year, for me not to like it. I liked it, but I wasn't sure if it was like, I wasn't sure if I loved it. But I'd say within a year, I started really seeing how the body was like built to die. And even if I wasn't seeing death like the last breath all the time, right? But just watching it with many, many people in that first year, seeing how the body was built to die and how we didn't have to do much as healthcare providers for it to be okay and for it to be peaceful and for things to just happen. That's when I started being like, this is like miraculous. I know it doesn't seem, like I said, miraculous feels like a weird word because people are dying, but it felt like that. It felt like, wow, this is miraculous. Our bodies are built to do this and we don't have to do much and people are peaceful. And so that, I'd say, I don't remember a specific instance, but I'd say like within that first year when I just kept seeing the same things over and over again in a good way, like in a way of like people just naturally stop eating, naturally start sleeping, naturally start dying on their own without us doing much. Meaning in the sense of, I think a lot of people think we have to do so many things and give them this and give them that. And that's just not true. I mean, sometimes, yes, but most of the time, no. The body will just know what to do. Just like birth. I mean, I've never given birth, but from what I hear, the hips widen, things happen, and next thing you know, there's a baby, right? So, well, not next thing. I know there's a whole laboring process.
There's a little in the middle there, but
a little in the middle, yeah. But like, I would love to look at death as like a laboring process. Barbara Carnes, who I love, always talks about death being like a laboring process. The only thing I don't like about that is that people associate labor with pain, and that's just not necessarily true with death. Yeah.
No, do you do children and adults? Do you do?
I only do adults. I've never done any kind of pediatric nursing.
Okay.
Whether it's in the hospital or on hospice, but there is pediatric hospice, and there are different regulations for pediatric versus adults. Yeah.
Now, do you find people are requesting you or they recognize you when you're coming in to work with a family that they're like, oh my gosh, it is Hospice Nurse Julie, or that they are requesting you at all?
Well, I think it helps that people request me, but they don't request me as Hospice Nurse Julie. I think people will, which they can't really request me because I don't work all the time. Even before I was Hospice Nurse Julie, I just work per diem, so I can't really take a caseload. So I'm like the helper nurse, I'm the admission nurse. I kind of follow through with patients and families sometimes if we had a good rapport, but for the most part, so people will ask for me in that way. I've only had a couple patients actually recognize me, and I think a lot of that, thank God, has to do with one, TikTok is like a young person thing for the most part. And I still wear a mask. And I'm in Los Angeles where there's like actually famous people, you know, I'm not like Brad Pitt, you know what I mean? So like for the most part, no one cares. Only 1 or 2 times have people been like, are you Hospice Nurse Julie? And then I'm like, yeah. Anyway.
And how do you feel? Like, I know that I've had where I'm working at the funeral home a couple times and people will come up and it's funny how close to me they get and they'll be like, are you Kari the Mortician? And I'm always like embarrassed and want to apologize for drawing any attention. It hasn't happened a lot, but the few times it has thrown me because I'm like, do you mean like from like you saw me at the funeral last week? And they're like, no, like from YouTube and stuff. And it makes me almost uncomfortable. Like, what do you feel like when people do that?
Honestly, it doesn't happen much. I really feel like being in, I don't know if it's, so I don't want to act like people should be recognizing me, right? But like I've heard other creators who have less followers than me or more the same amount who really get recognized all the time, right? And I think it's because they're in a smaller town. In LA, I don't really get recognized. Every once in a while, and I do feel a little uncomfortable when I'm the nurse because then I feel a little more like pressure or like, am I acting the same? What do they think of me? Do they like Hospice Nurse Julie? You know, it's hard. It's hard. So I do feel a little uncomfortable, but for the most part, it doesn't really happen. Like sometimes in a coffee shop every once in a while, but it's like people don't say much. Yeah. Thank God. Because I think I would feel weird. I would feel weird.
But I think that LA thing, I think you're very right. That's got to be a huge part of it just because there are so many people that you could see.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Now, has there ever been a case where you were like, I could walk away from being a hospice nurse and I'd be okay from either uncomfortable family that you worked with, a bad situation, just something that kind of pushed you to question actually working as a hospice nurse now?
No, never. Never. I've had really hard days. I really feel like even if I became a multimillionaire somehow, some way, I would still work. I would still do this. I probably wouldn't do it full time because it's nice to do other things, but I would do this for free. I mean it. Like I love it. I mean, I like getting paid, but if I had like tons of money and I didn't, you know, like I love it so much that I would just like to do it. Right. So no, nothing's ever made me not want to be a hospice nurse. There's definitely been really hard days, but it doesn't make me not want to be a hospice nurse. It just makes me want to take a day off. I'm like, I need a couple of days off because I can't do this. And really the only thing that really gets me a lot is the charting that comes along with nursing, especially hospice nursing, because it's Medicare driven and we have to follow these Medicare guidelines and the hoops we have to jump through. And it's a double-edged sword. It's like, it's great because Medicare provides us with a lot of stuff. So that's amazing. So but because we have to jump through all these hoops to get the things we need to get. And guess what? Nonprofit or profit hospices, either one, they're still money-making businesses. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, are they going to get reimbursed? Are they, and that kind of stuff makes me want to, I don't know, crawl in a hole. I'm just like, I can't believe this is what we're coming down. This is what it comes down to. Like, I have to do X, Y, and Z so this person can get the thing they need to be comfortable before they die. Are you kidding me? But so those days are hard when it just feels like, oh my God, it's so frustrating. And I will like bleed for my patients. Especially if they're really uncomfortable, I will that's when like Mama Bear comes out and I turn into like a crazy lady. If I get pushback from administration or pushback from somebody who's like not giving us what we need, it's like, no, I'm the one here. I'm the one watching this person. I'm telling you what they need. What do I need to do to get it? So those days are hard, but in general, I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah.
Now, talking about end of life, talking about death, what kind of funeral and things do you want for yourself? I mean, we're forced to think about, I think, our mortality and what comes next and that. So let's do that a 2-part question. I get questions all the time. One, does working around death make you feel more comfortable about your own death? And two, what do you want in terms of funeral service for yourself?
Working around death 100% makes me more comfortable dying. I've always been comfortable dying. Ever since I've been a little girl. I don't know why. I feel like when I die, I'm going to go to a place that I've always known as home. So it doesn't feel super scary to me. But being around death and seeing people take their last breath over and over and over again, and being in that area when people are getting closer to death, it feels sacred. It feels special. Like, it doesn't feel scary. And I'm removed from the grief because it's not my loved one, right? So all I see is the beauty and the love. And so it makes me so much less afraid. Now, if I got diagnosed with something terminal tomorrow, I'm still human. I would have fear and anger and sadness and not want to die, not want to leave my loved ones. It's not like that. I'd still have the human experience, but in general, I'm not afraid to die. If I got the privilege, and I think it is a privilege, and some people might get angry when I say that, but the privilege to know when I'm going to die, meaning I have some kind of terminal diagnosis, I know I have 6 months to live. If I knew that, I would 100% plan a celebration of life where I have my funeral when I'm alive. So just because then it's all about me, baby. And I get to hear everyone say all the things they would say at my funeral anyway, because I don't want to have a funeral after I die. I mean, if people want to, they can, if my loved ones want to, but don't spend the money. I don't think I would like you to not do that. I would like to have a big party or a big celebration of life, and I'm there and we're all loving each other. And then I would be either cremated, although I've heard that's kind of bad for the environment. So probably something that's cheap and best for the environment with my body. Once my body's gone, I don't really care. And that's it.
Nice.
I'd make it real easy. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So then I have like all these questions, but then I want to dive into other stuff when we're talking, but I want to make sure I ask you the questions that I've been wanting to. So one question I thought of the other day, because sometimes I think about this, we have this social presence, and we've named ourselves by our job and kind of defined who we are by our job. You're Hospice Nurse Julie, I'm Kari the Mortician. Do you ever think, well, what about if I am not a hospice nurse? Then I'm got to change my whole persona, or do I want to just be defined by this one thing? Or are you okay with that? Do you ever think about that, or is this just me overanalyzing?
Oh my God. No, I always think about that because now this is going to be super honest. So everyone who's listening, please, because I hate saying this because it sounds so arrogant, but it's true. I like being a personality. Like, I like that. I like being in front of a camera. I like it. It comes natural. I like it. So I often think and I still love being a hospice nurse too, right? So I want to make my social media about hospice nursing and just about me and my everyday life and taking people around and just talking. But it also doesn't seem to work like that. It seems like I'm in a niche. People like me as Hospice Nurse Julie.
Yeah.
And that's where they want me to stay, which is okay too. Maybe it is a little arrogant of me to be like, I want to just be the person that people want to watch, but I would like that. That's why I love Instagram, because I'm on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. I'm on all the platforms. Instagram feels a little more personal to me. Like, I can go on the stories and kind of just say funny things that are happening throughout the day. And I do talk about my sobriety too. So I'm sober. I'm a sober alcoholic. I've been sober for 7 years, and I talk about that too. And those videos don't ever do as good as, not that that really matters, but it's an obvious thing that people watch me as Hospice Nurse Julie, not as Julie, the sober girl, because the videos don't do that great. They're kind of like, what's this about? Why do we care? But I just share that part of my life because it's a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of why I don't fear death. It's, so I still do it, even though people don't necessarily care that much. But yeah, I don't even know if I answered that question, Kari, but I do think about it.
Yeah. Well, and what is your number one watched TikTok? Do you know what it is?
Yeah. It's all of the ones. There's kind of like several that are in the same like in the millions. But I think the number one is technically the one about the rally, or the terminal lucidity is the real name, where someone looks really ill and they're about to die, and they suddenly get a burst of energy
Yep.
and do really well, and then they die suddenly afterwards. So that's my highest watched video. But in general, that one with the visioning, there's also visioning at the end of life. Those two concepts seem to always get millions of views.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I know I really found fascinating talking about the dehydration and how it's been,
Yeah.
because I had never thought about that. I mean, I didn't know that leads to a more peaceful death essentially. But in terms of then that patient coming to us, if they're more dehydrated, that it doesn't affect, but it is something to definitely consider, which I never would have as an embalmer. And with that body
Interesting.
needing to rehydrate probably even more. And I sent that video to a group of embalmers I talk to all the time. And I'm like, guys, did we know this? Why didn't we ever think about this? This is like really interesting. I mean, the moisture level probably isn't maybe drastically different, but it would be interesting to look into that more, I think, from that.
Wait, is it harder to do your job with a dehydrated body, for lack of better, I don't know how to word it, but
Well, think about if you go to, like, if I'm sick, I've been vomiting, I'm dehydrated, I go to give blood and they try and get blood, much harder to find your veins and your vessels because they collapse. It's harder. Same thing is some of those vessels are going to react differently if we're embalming, or also the tissue is going to be needing to be rehydrated more for that body not to the skin not to dehydrate quickly, and it dehydrates, it's going to get leathery and hard. So we're going to want to rehydrate. So it would be, I think it's an interesting thing to teach along with that, possibly hospice patients are going to need more rehydration because of that dehydration. I just think it's something I never would have considered because I didn't know these things. It's fascinating.
Well, I didn't know these things even as an ICU nurse. I would not have believed some of the things that I say now. And that's how like healthcare has failed the death community in general. Like we don't talk about it, we don't learn about it, we don't know enough about it to even know basic common things that every hospice worker knows. Our death worker knows. In the ICU, I would have not believed me if I said like, oh, a dying patient shouldn't be hydrated. I mean, I would believe the person. I wouldn't like deny, like, but I would have been surprised. I've been like, oh shit, wow, okay, because we're so used to just hydrating.
Right.
And now that I know that, I see all the time how like the hospital is kind of and not because anyone's doing anything wrong, but if someone's really dying, which many people are, and no one talks about, if someone's really dying and they go into the hospital, I would say it's a bad place. It's actually a bad place for them to be, because we focus on the one thing that's wrong. Someone has a low blood pressure, we pump them full of fluid, their body can't handle it, so they go into respiratory distress. We have to intubate them, sedate them, then diurese them, which means take the fluid off that we just gave them. It's just a vicious cycle. I saw it all the time in the ICU, all the time. And you just didn't know.
The amount of fluid you can put into a human body, because we deal with then the edema and everything from that influx of fluid. I mean, 40, 50 pounds. Like, it's an insane amount of weight you can put into someone in a short period of time when they're hospitalized. So pretty amazed by that. Your other video that I was always makes me think about is dying with death with no dignity. Why can't I say this right?
Death with dignity.
I always want to put dying in there, but we don't have it here. And I got introduced to it a few years ago when I came to California, and just trying to find a funeral home to connect an individual to so that they could, plan out their stuff. And this funeral home refused to work with it because it was such a new concept at the time. And they were like, we don't even know how that would work. So we're not going to. And I was stunned by it. I'm like, I don't know how it works. I had no clue at that point, but I'm like, how can you, as a funeral home in California, say no to someone who's going to die in California just because you don't understand what is now law and acceptable there? Like, it just blew my mind. But so you have talked about, have you attended the death of people who have chosen that, or how does that work when it comes to hospice with someone who's choosing that? Do you have to be present?
No. So it's pretty wild. I have been present for people who have drank it, and it's one of the greatest gifts people have given me to be able to witness that. Even though it was like not scary. Scary is the wrong word. It was heavy though. Like, and I'm all for it. So it's not heavy like they shouldn't do it.
Right.
It's just weird to see someone up walking around knowing they're going to drink this drink and then die, and
Yeah.
I don't know if the word's like courage or what it is, but I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. Because it just seems so absolute or something. There's so much, even though it gives you all the control, it still feels scary. Anyway, not scary to die, just scary knowing what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
I am so lucky that I get to witness it. So how it works. So at least for us, hospice will not pay for that medication because it's Medicare. Medicare is a federal thing, right? So the person needs to get that medication before they come on hospice. And then they get the medication and then they come on hospice.
Oh,
And then they drink it when they want to, and then they die. So it's so funny. The funeral home refused them because really the funeral home doesn't even need to know what's going on. They die the same way that, it's
I
just,
think they thought because it's, if it's suicide, then we have to call in the medical examiner and we have to do this and do that. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
it's not suicide.
It's
Yeah.
a natural death
Yeah.
that goes
Yeah.
back to why they were dying originally. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with this end choice. And they
Yep.
didn't understand it, I think, because it was such a new concept.
So new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, I would think it would be far different now if I made those phone calls.
And not every hospice will participate either. So like not every hospice participates. I happen to be with one that does. But I had a hospice before that I worked for that didn't participate in it. So the patient has to have a terminal diagnosis with less than 6 months to live. They have to be able to get 2 different doctors to sign off that this is true, 6 months or less to live, and that they are physically and mentally able to make this choice for themselves, and that they can like physically take this medication somehow. Like they can do it through a G-tube, but and each state with this is a little different, a little more gray. But you do have to be able to prove to 2 different doctors at 2 different times that you can physically and mentally choose to do this. And then once that happens, they give you the medication and then you don't ever have to take it. It's kind of like once you have it, okay, and we don't regulate. It's not regulated. It's kind of like you can take it when you want to, or you don't have to tell us you can. Like it's pretty, they're pretty like, here you go, and let the families do what they want with it and the patient do what they want. Now, most people just take it right away or in a week. I've had one lady never take it. I've had someone get it and never take it. Someone wait like months and months and months and then finally take it. It just depends. And it's really, really peaceful, super quick. And I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I think just because especially we don't have it here,
Yeah.
middle America, I say we're pretty vanilla here still with a lot of things, a lot of concepts, composting, all this stuff, even alkaline hydrolysis, water cremation. We just don't have it here yet. It's all these concepts that are out by the coasts that just haven't come over here yet. So it's interesting to see it played out in other places, but not happening here, which is weird. Like, why can't everybody just get on board one thing at the same time and just do it?
Yeah.
It'd be so
I know the idea that it's controversial to me is like, interesting. I just don't think it is. I don't, it's like, you don't like it, then don't do it. Or
the choice.
Or what was I going to say? About the death of, shoot, I forgot. I don't know. We were talking about death with dignity. I don't know. Shoot, Kari, sorry.
Don't do it if you don't want to do it.
Don't do it if you don't want to. Girl, I don't know. Never mind. I lost it totally. I know.
We were
I know. There we go. It's not suicide. It's like, I don't consider it. People will say assisted suicide. I just don't. it's not suicide. It's like taking control over something that's already happening. You know, like you are dying. You're not a perfectly healthy person and taking your own life. You are going to die from this disease and you're ending your suffering. And that's it, you know?
Well, and I can see
So,
where you feel like you have such little control over something that gives you this one trump power where you can find you're taking control over your final
yeah.
everything. And that I think has to feel very empowering when you have had basically life taken away from you,
Yeah.
you know, kind of in the end.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but that's how I feel like I would envision it. I don't know.
I know.
No, I know before we started recording, we were kind of talking about how my work works because I'm a freelance funeral director and we're kind of do the same in a lot of ways in terms of, you know, working not full time in the one capacity, but then what we're doing is also just other areas that we cover within our work. You know, you're doing the social media, educating about this role that you do.
Yeah.
That's what I do as well. And I think it keeps us kind of fresh. Would you agree
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
I think I've gone through ruts over the years because I've been licensed 20, almost 21 years now as a funeral director. And I went through such a rut when this all started. I just hit my 7-year anniversary on YouTube as well. I think yesterday or
Oh, wow.
today. So when you're saying 7 years, I'm like, gosh, this is very similar story. Some of it. And I was going through a rut and changed things up and now have all these different avenues and it keeps it fresh and exciting. And I learned so much from the people that comment and from viewers. What
Yeah.
is something what are some things that maybe you've learned that have been lessons you never knew you needed through viewers and through questions that people have given to you?
Well, so many things. I mean, one, that people are wanting to learn about death and dying. That was honestly a shock to me. I didn't know that people were going to want to learn about it. So that a major thing, many messages I get from people are talk to me about death anxiety. Like of course, like everyone kind of fears death and like doesn't want to talk about it. There's people who write into me, and Hospice Nurse Penny, who I love, we're like besties on that's something I gained from this. Hospice Nurse Penny and I met on TikTok. We are seriously best friends.
That's
We talk
awesome.
like every single day. Anyway, so she gets these messages too, of people saying that they really had severe death anxiety, and through education and through watching our videos, it's really helped them. That's something I never set out to do. I knew people had fear, but I didn't know like that was like a real thing. And they said that education has really helped them. So it's like these videos are helping people in ways that I wasn't even anticipating. And it's really amazing. It makes everything so, because I get in ruts too, where you're like, what more can I say? Or I'm just not in the mood to do, I can't make any videos. I only want it to feel authentic and real and normal. I
Mm-hmm.
never want it to feel contrived or like I'm trying to make a video. And sometimes you just don't know what to say anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So reading comments really helps refresh me into like, oh yeah, that's a good question. Or, oh yeah, I haven't talked about that in a while. People don't want to go back into my hundreds of videos and try to find the
Right.
one video I made about whatever, right? So it helps me refresh and videos and make a new video about a similar topic. Um, and then people who are willing, like, I mean, I did a whole series where I showed real people dying, um, which I think is amazing and what needs to be shown. And it's all from viewers who've like chosen to be a part of the series, signed waivers, like got really involved. It just was so amazing that they gave that gift to the world, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Such intimate moments. I know I watched
yeah,
some of the death rattle videos you did, and that's something like it's hard to explain unless you literally are hearing it.
yeah,
And so for you to be able to share some of that with people and they can hear like this is normal through that, I think is such a generous thing to let other people into by these families sharing those things with you.
exactly. I know. And then people, I can get why some people are like, why would you, because of course you get like people who are like, why would you do this? This is horrific. And it's like, and then you get people being like, it's because of your videos that I didn't freak out when I heard and saw these things with my loved one.
Mhm.
And it's like, because that's all I would hear is messages from people saying, my loved one looked like this, and they'd explain what they looked like at the end of life. They were suffering. It was awful. It was horrific. It was traumatic. And it was a normal death. And they just did not know that that's what a normal death looks like. They think their loved one's suffocating. They think they're drowning. They think all these things. So it's like, no, I think, and even TikTok says it's sensitive topics, and they black out the video and say it's too sensitive. You can still watch it, but you have to like go find the video. And it's like, this isn't sensitive. This is what it looks like. It's not a sensitive. This is what people should know. So they don't have these traumatic or more traumatic anyway. It's already hard enough to lose someone and be there when they're dying. But I think the main thing we need to do is know what it looks like, so you don't feel like they're suffering and you don't feel like it's an emergency. You can just be there.
Yep.
Yeah, and experience end of life. I mean, I don't know. I'm rambling now, but
You're good. I'm a rambler too. Well, what is coming up next for you? Like, what is in your future for the next year or two? Any big projects? What are you up to?
Well, the biggest thing is I'm writing a book. So I'm in the process of writing a book right now. It's still very new and need, editing. We're in the whole process of it. And I'm working with the publisher, Penguin Random House. It's an imprint of Penguin Random House. And yeah, the book is due. Supposedly we're working for June 2024. Just because it takes a long time to get things published, apparently. Who knew? But yeah, so that's a big thing. And then, of course, I'm on all socials, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. So I just keep chugging away at those channels and making new videos for everybody. And it's just been really great.
Nice. What is something, if you could pick one thing that your work would allow you to get to go do, like if you could go talk to any group or visit any place or see something or be part of something.
Oh my God. So many things. Get death with dignity or medical aid in dying as making it a federal law, so all states can have it. I would love to go talk to oncologists around the world about talking about death and dying, and really working in the palliative care and hospice care, kind of like right from the beginning. So hospice and palliative care don't sound like bad words. Okay. Like, oh, not that yet. And it's like, no, that we need to do this like right off the bat. This is just to help people, And what was the other thing I was going to say? I don't know. Those two things. We'll start there, because I could say a bunch of stuff that I'd want to do. But and I love just talking to the general public. Like, I love talking to the general public about death and dying, because I feel like no one does.
Yeah.
So we need to. It's going to happen to all of us. It doesn't have to be, or it can be scary, and we can still talk about it.
Yep. Just cover your eyes, but listen while I'm talking.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And my whole family is like that. So I'm used to people being like, don't talk to me about this. My family's like the worst. It's so funny.
That is odd. Yeah. When you're in the business, it's your everyday.
Yes.
The people that you want to hear it the most are like, yeah, I'm good.
I know. My sister, who's my best friend, we see each other every single day. She's always like, that video last night, I couldn't watch it. I'm like, Jill, watch my damn videos.
See, she figures you'll just handle it when the time
comes. That's exactly what she said. What she said. I know. Yeah. Kari, you asked great questions. First off, this is not like the average interview.
That's what, before we started recording, I was like, I'm sure like me, you get a lot of the same questions from people, which they're great to answer, but sometimes it's fun to ask, I don't know, a little bit different, not too zany, but I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
This is check.
Yeah. So fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to share this, and hopefully this is what you guys wanted. If there's something else you want from Julie, you'll have to let me know, and we'll do it part 2 if we get enough.
Exactly. I'll come back.
Yeah. I'll just come back to LA and we can do it in person, and
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. I'm thinking about, Sorry. I'm thinking about doing something like this on my YouTube too, interviewing people like this,
It's
because
fun.
we need to hear from people like you too on my channel.
Anytime.
So,
You just tell me
yeah.
when.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Post your questions, comments below. Go check out all of Hospice Nurse. Why can't I talk today? Hospice Nurse Julie's social media. I'll put all the links down in the description of the video. So go check out her stuff. Thank you guys.
Thank you.